And we're live. Hey everybody, how you doing? It's your man James, Mr. Sequential Treasures, back again for another live stream event here for you. Hope you're all doing well today. It seems it seems that we finally have hit fall where I'm at. It's the weather has changed. No more summer. I'm going to say that kind of sucks. But I am doing better physically. I am all over my recent spat with appendicitis. I'm back to full steam now, so it's full speed ahead over here. Things are moving. I've been in contact with some of the artists. They know, they're going to be hopefully sending me some stuff soon. Maybe even from one who is sort of our prodigal son here at Sequential Treasures, who very rarely updates. So cross your fingers that happens. I'd love to be able to do a live stream with some of their art in the very near future. But today is not that. Today is not anything to do with any of the art from any of the artists. It's another discussion stream. If you guys recall, last time around, a couple weeks ago, I did one where I talked about how in the comic book industry, the creators are finally starting to see the repercussions and ramifications of what they've been doing for the last several years, as far as injecting overt, divisive identity politics stuff into books, into the work, and attacking anybody online, fans, fellow creators, anyone who dares to stand against that orthodoxy. And they're starting to see the returns from that now. And they see that the industry is not doing well, despite all their protestations otherwise. Oh, the industry is doing fine, and yet we all know it's not. They're starting to have to see the truth is so overwhelmingly in their face they can't deny it anymore, but they're still denying any culpability, any responsibility for it. And I talked a little bit about that yet last time, about the what. But we didn't really get too much into the why. Why are they that way? Why do they refuse to see what, to those of us here, who've been watching and paying attention, is so blatantly obvious? They want to blame all these esoteric reasons. Oh, it's paper costs. Oh, it's because publishing is down across the board and all venues. It's because of the internet. It's because of piracy. It's all these reasons why they can't make money, why the sales suck, why the books don't sell. All these reasons. Oh, it's all this other stuff. But it's never them. It's never anything they have done or said. And we all know that isn't true. So why is it they're still refusing to accept that it's true, even in the face of, again, of disaster staring them right in the eye? And I was watching some videos a couple weeks ago, and I saw this one from a guy named Fat Short Otaku, who I just recently got into a few months ago through someone else. They recommended them, and I started checking out their videos. And in this video, what they call the private life, they get into some things that really got to me. And I started thinking about it. I'm like, as I'm listening to them talk about it, I'm like, that sounds like the comic book industry. That sounds like modern comic book pros. That sounds like what's going on in comics right now. And it just more and more and more seemed to spelled out to me why, that in the face of everything, the pros, the editors, even the corporations themselves, are refusing to look at what's happening in this industry and accept their responsibility in it, their culpability in what has happened. And I'm going to get you into that video here in a minute, but it's really great stuff, and it really speaks, I think, to the core of everything. I think once you watch this live stream, once you've seen these videos I'm going to show you and other things I got for you, you're going to walk away and you're going to have a full understanding of why things are as they are, not just in this industry, but more in like society in the Western world overall today. It's something that's, culture is downstream of politics, they say, and that's kind of what we're at. And you'll come to see exactly what all this is with these videos and whatnot that I have for you to show you how this goes and how it not only happens, but why it's happening and how it escalates so easily and so quickly. So we're going to get into that. But first, unfortunately, again, signs of aging. Got to get my eyeballs out here. There we go. Now the fuzz is gone. And now we're going to start screen sharing some stuff with you guys. Let's see here. And first thing we're going to share is, of course, Short Fat Otaku's video that I just talked about there, the one he titled The Private Life. It's, and For all you watching, I'm going to have the closed captioning on. I have the sound up probably as good as I can get it. Hopefully you'll hear it, because I know I'll be able to hear it. But even if you can't hear it, at least you'll be able to read along with what he says. And I've also sped it up a little bit because, as you can see, it's not exactly a short video he did. He talks about everything here. And, I want to make sure to try to get through this stuff as much as possible, as quickly as possible, because I got a lot to get to. So without further ado, let's... I'll probably take breaks in between while he's talking here. We'll let him talk for a bit, and then I'll take breaks and give you, my thoughts when I want to interject with something that I think is relevant. So let's get things rolling.
Really seen this phrase before. Everything is political. We've been dealing with it for a decade now. Even longer still, if you took gender studies class in the 2000s like I did. Pac-Man is political. Star Trek is political. Traffic signals are political. Neckties are political. Hiking is political. Smiling is political. Opening schools is political. Closing schools is political. Food is political. Streets are political. Teaching is political. Art is political. Nickelodeon, the kids channel, is political. Ethnobotany is political. Socks are political. Outdoor equipment is political. Smutty card games are political. Enterprise software is political. The dictionary is political. Coffee is political. Yogurt is political. I know a lot of these examples say racist or sexist instead of political, but this is the generalization of the theme. You've heard the clip, right?
Everything is racist. Everything is homophobic, and you point all out to everyone all the time.
This is what it.
And there you go, right there. That is the core. That is what modern comic creators in the mainstream believe. Everything is political. It's all political. There is no oasis. There is no, despite their terms, safe space, there is nowhere to go to get away from politics. Everything is political. It's all political. And this to me is at the heart of the problems in this industry, as well as many others, as well as society in general. And again, we're going to get more into it, but there it is right there. Everything is political.
Is meant by everything is political. To describe it in the leftist tongue, everything is wrapped up in systems of oppression. Everything can be examined critically and the bigotry sussed out. Everything impacts people in not just an everyday way, but a collective, society-wide one. And so, everything is political. While some of these examples are obviously stupid, streets are not hate black people, Karen. Like the neo-planist position, and unfortunately for the liberal position, the underlying ethic is once again true. Everything actually can be political. The coffee in your kitchen is simply a drink you buy at the store and then have when it suits you. But it's also where it came from. Was slave labor involved in its creation? Were those workers compensated fairly? Are there injustices that force those workers into that position? In the trade deal that went between two governments to get that coffee from that country to your kitchen, was part of the deal fucking over somewhere else? This is a political way of viewing coffee. So are correct. But what they're missing, again, is the public-private split. They're missing that liberal society allows people to have a private life. Here's a great Nestle is a shitty company. I try not to buy Nestle.
See, there we go. Here he is. Here he brings in what we see as what I call the great divide. What some people call the polarization in Western society today, the political polarization. This is what it is. Those who believe that the private life is a thing, and those who believe that the private life is just another facet of the political. This is the divide. This is where it all comes from. This is where the heart of the matter is. This is what everything that we have seen all boils down to in the end.
For that reason alone. But you know what? Drumstick ice cream cones are just really fucking good. And every once in a while, I'll pick one up from the store. I don't do it all the time. But I'm also not willing to rake myself over the coals over it, because everything is political. And I need to stick to my principles all the time, or I'm a raging hypocrite. Sticking to your principles is important. Don't get me wrong. But I also understand that everybody has a cheat meal once in a while. People can relax a bit if the stakes are low. Not everybody has to be turned on all the time. And expecting them to be is a bit ridiculous, isn't it? Where it counts, you should certainly stick to your principles. I'm never taking a Nestle sponsorship, for example. They can go fuck themselves. But the private life is a place where you don't have to be political, where you can recharge your batteries and chill for a little while. To the socialist, whose view is totalizing, whose ethic is neo-planist, and whose position is that everything is political. Do you think you'd live that private life in their world? Do you think you'd ever be able to just chill out? Because everything is political, suddenly when it's somebody else's politics on display, the socialists have no choice but to freak out. A German far-right group is trying to recruit kids with a video game. Death Stranding is queer-phobic and promotes rape culture. Studio Ghibli has failed to deal with Japanese imperialism in its bright, colorful escapist movie. 6 Days in Fallujah needs to be deplatformed and blocked because it normalizes and promotes the mass murder of Iraqis. Don't play This Land Is My Land because they don't have Native American representation on their development team. Most people's knee-jerk reactions to these freakouts is to laugh at them and say, well, I thought everything was political. Maybe they view these individuals as so joyless and obsessed with politics that the idea of media that doesn't explicitly address the political is worthless to them. And sure, for a lot of brain-dead progs marching in lockstep with the approved points of view, they probably do view it as shallowly as this. But that's not the ideological core of the ethic being presented here. If everything is political and their politics are
damn it.
The right care at the right times. Plus 20% off.
Nobody cares about your ads, YouTube.
Welcome back your smile today.
What if extraterrestrials are already here waiting for us to reach out?
Yeah, they're called progressives.
If everything is political and they're saving the world and creating the utopia, then every moment and every space must be turned towards their politics. Every moment where socialism isn't being discussed, every space where socialism isn't present, is a direct setback. And therefore, these people view a mandate to fix it. This is a totalizing worldview. By design, it leaves nothing out. No private life. No moment where you can disengage, be off for a while. Step away from the eternal struggle and just live life. Even though everything may be political, you can still have places and times where coffee might be political, but it doesn't mean that there's not a time and place where you just say, fuck it, and enjoy your cup of coffee on some pleasant spring morning with your partner. Movies might be political, but you can still...
See, and there it is. These people are so turned on with their politics. As he says, they're totalitarian about it. You know, they think that their politics matter so much that anything that does not reflect them, that is not coerced or corrupted or controlled by them, is a setback. It's something that is harmful. You know, it's like, imagine you think you have the right answer to something and you know it's the right answer, and yet people won't listen to you. You see that as a failure. I'm failing to get people to do the right thing. And that's how these creators are. This is why the work is the way it is. That's why they do the things in the books that they do. That's why they say what they say online to the readers that don't get with the program. It's all because they believe in this utopic ideal in their political ideology, and anything that does not subscribe to that, anything that is not connected to that, anything that does not, is not constantly tuned in with that, is a problem, and it either has to be solved or destroyed.
Say not today and snuggle up on the couch with somebody and watch one for fun. Games might be political, but sometimes you just want to play them with your friends. To the socialist, this view is a waste of precious resources, precious time, precious space. But to the liberal, this is what makes life worth living. This divide between the liberal ethic and the socialist one is why you routinely see stuff like this happen. When Basecamp banned political speech at their work, regardless of political denomination, they lost 1/3 of their employees. One of those former employees said on Twitter, "We just ask that if you want to work here, you leave behind everything that makes you human at the door." These people actually believe their politics is what makes them human, and not those private anti-politic moments like drinking coffee with their spouse. Imagine the mindset you have to think like this. Imagine thinking that politics is what makes you human, rather than your humanity making you political. That mindset is best described by another common leftist phrase: the personal is political. This view
and here we come to the heart of it all that he's talking about. See, there it is the personal is political. See, there is no safe space, there is no oasis, there is nowhere to go that is not political with these types. And this is the whole point of the whole thing. This is the divide. This is where we all argue. You and I, most likely most of you anyway who are watching this, you agree with me that yeah, politics has its place, but it's not everything. It's not everywhere, and certainly not in the personal. When I'm trying to sit here and watch a movie or play a video game or read a comic book or enjoy a meal, I'm not sitting there thinking about the political implications of that. I'm just sitting here and I'm just trying to have a good time. I'm trying to enjoy myself, because that's, as he said, what makes life worth living. And to these people, all of that is irrelevant, because we're not in utopia yet, the utopia that they believe we should have, and therefore anything that gets in the way of that has to be stopped. So your desire for a quote unquote normal life is in the way of utopia. And if you truly believe that that's the case, what wouldn't you do to people who were in the way of bringing about utopia?
Flies in the face of the liberal ethic on privacy. We can't accept that everything may have a political component. opponent, but also that there is a time and place to deal with those politics. Addressing the politics of coffee can be another time, not the morning coffee with your partner. The liberal respects the distinction between the public and the private, between the political and the personal. For this reason, it gives people the space to be people, rather than always on, always emoting politrons. But just as importantly, it provides the moral foundations for the limits of state power. If we accept that we have a private, personal life away from political engagement, then it stands to reason that during the occurrence of a violent crime or something, that is a realm in which the state has no business butting in. For example, back during Canada's push to decriminalize homosexuality, Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau said it best: there is no place for the state in the bedrooms of the nation. That is an appeal to the personal, to the private life, existing outside of the state's purview. But if everything is political, then certainly the personal is political. And if the personal is political, then every personal act is also a political act. And if every act is a political act, then every act is the concern of the state, because the political is the concern of the state. If you've noticed it sounds like fascism, you'd be correct. Mussolini's most famous quote, "All within the state, nothing outside the state, nothing against the state," certainly applies here, but it runs deeper than that. The fascist conception of the state is all-embracing. Outside of it, no human or spiritual values can exist, much less have value. This understood, fascism is totalitarian, and the fascist state, a synthesis and a unit inclusive of all values, interprets, develops, and potentiates the whole life of a people. The people we're dealing with believe that the personal is political, that everything is political and must be treated as such, that the private life is something to be scorned, about something like private ownership, and watch them reject the liberal values of privacy and consent. I'm sure at this point I don't need to quote Marx's rejection of liberal privacy again. I've done it about 5 times now in different videos. You know the drill at this point. Mussolini mentioned synthesis in that quote for a specific reason. Giovanni Gentile, the philosopher of fascism, was a neo-Hegelian, and in the Hegelian tradition, believed that a fascist society would necessarily include a significant private life, the socialist's publicness arising as the antithesis to the liberal's thesis of privateness. The fascists viewed the distinction between public and private life as non-existent, imposed by the liberal government, but not actually a real thing.
So, he's getting into a little more heady stuff here, but again, it boils down to, there it is. That when you believe that your politics and that your viewpoint is the totality of what society should encompass, then anything that does not fall within that purview is something that it must be destroyed. It cannot stand. It's like, when the state would tell you there is no God but the state. The state is the ultimate power. There is nothing greater than the state. If you believed in a God Almighty that is greater than the state, you are a problem, because you are now appealing to an authority greater than the state. And the state knows its power only extends as far as it can if it is the ultimate power. And that's how these people are. They see that their viewpoint is the ultimate viewpoint, and anything that goes against that, anything that is not in line with that, anything that is not in sync with that, is therefore something that is against what they're after. And that's why they come after you so hard. Again, this is why we've seen, companies and creators attacking the very audience that they should be trying to please to buy their products. But they don't, because they're of this mindset of the utopic ideal of their politics. And as long as that's in play, everything else can be sacrificed, including the private, including personal interaction, including, customer service, including all these things, good art, entertainment. It can all be sacrificed on the altar of the utopic ideal.
This sounds a lot like the progressive everything is political position, like the socialist everything must be turned towards praxis position. What binds these philosophies together is that they are all totalitarian. And I'm using that word properly to mean a political philosophy that concerns itself with the total of everything. It is totalizing. There is nothing that exists that the philosophy considers to be neutral or unaligned or outside of its scope. Fascism and socialism, progressivism and Marxism all view themselves as complete theories, and therefore there is no topic in which they have no position. This is not the liberal point of view. For the liberal, a lot of things are personal. For the liberal, a lot of things are good. For the liberal, there is a whole section of life where the state's position should be, do what you want, it's none of my business. A totalitarian philosophy can't tolerate that appeal to privacy. It's a big part of why socialists don't understand consent, because consent is fundamentally a private matter. If everything can be political, the liberal position that allows for a private life is important to being able to actually live as a human being. These same people who demand that everything be political are paradoxically ranting about the violence of speech or the trauma of mental health issues, even as their totalizing worldview causes a lot of that shit, or at least makes it a whole lot worse. These same people who demand that the personal is political are now shocked to learn that politics has a profit motive, and rage at what they view as their personal getting sold out because it's political political now, and there's money to be made. These same people who think that all media, all art, all video games, etc., are political, genuinely believe that using political themes or engaging in political drama to tell a story is the same thing as shoehorning in their contemporary politics in order to push a particular stance onto the audience, because the creator thinks that this property they've inherited would make a great soapbox. These same people who talk about the value of the community, who appeal to the community's greater needs and collective wisdom all the time, also paradoxically consider the liberal position of I can get along with people who have different opinions to be a personal attack against them, because for them, politics is a zero-sum game. And that brings us back around to the beginning, where no difference can be tolerated, where the socialist struggle is so real that if you side with red, you're evil even if it's blue who pushed you there. My good friend and
And there it is. This was the key of everything he said right there. It's the totality of it all. They cannot abide any viewpoint that is different from what they believe. That's why nothing else matters. Your comic book isn't selling, doesn't matter. Sales across in the industry are tanking, doesn't matter. People don't like you, doesn't matter. You're turning away your audience, doesn't matter. None of that matters, because anyone who is not down with the cause is a problem anyway, and they need to be silenced or removed. Again, I'm going to show you some things later on that are going to get into that, but again, this is what Short Fat Otaku was talking about. And like I said, how much of that, when you were listening to that or reading along in the closed captioning, how much of that were you reading that and going, my God, that sounds like modern comic books. My God, that sounds like the comic book pros online today. Yes. This is what it is. This is what it's all about. Right here. This. They and even if, like he said with that cartoon there where it shows, the person in the middle, the neutral, who's like trying to say, well, both sides make good points in certain areas, and then the blue is the one that pushes him into the red, and then the blue asks, why are you siding with red? See, even though it's the leftists, the progressives, the comic book pros who are pushing you away when you take the side of, well, I believe in a private life, I believe that the personal is not political. They automatically assume that you think that because, well, you have to be, because you're exactly the opposite. You're evil. And that's why they come at you the way they do. It's all together. Again, he said a totality mentality. It's either all or nothing. Either everyone thinks like us, or you must be obliterated. You must be removed. This is how some of the greatest crimes and tragedies in human history have occurred, with that kind of thinking. And again, these people don't even see it. They are so enmeshed in their own political viewpoints and thinking that what they believe is the only correct answer, the only way forward, that they can't see anything else. And even when it's staring them in the face, like the fall of their industry, the sales are in the tank, the books aren't selling, shops are closing, the industry is contracting, all the things you heard Kelly Sue say in that video I played for you last time, all those things are happening, and they still take no responsibility themselves for it, because, well, we're doing the right things. We're the good and virtuous people. We believe in buzzword salad. Therefore, we're good people. It's got to be those evil people on the other side who aren't listening to us that are doing all this. And it's always somebody else. Because if they have to turn this inward and say, I'm at fault, I did this, I played some role, I'm at least somewhat culpable in everything that happened, that means their utopic ideal is at fault. And they can never, ever accept that reality, because that would just obliterate everything they believe. And that will never happen. They will never allow that to happen. It's scary to think about, but it's true. It's these people are, again, like I said, they are what they claim to hate. They claim they hate, fascism. They hate bigotry. They hate, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And yet, in spite of all that, they do the very things that they say they hate, because in their minds, it's leading to the ultimate good end. It doesn't matter in the short term what mean, nasty, horrible, vicious things I say and do to people. That doesn't matter. That's irrelevant. It's okay that I do those things because in the end, it's all going to turn out better because, my politics. And, and that's why they are this way. and it's scary to think about. It's scary to have to deal with, but it's what we're in. It's the situation we have. But like I said, Short Fat Otaku, he was excellent in this. I loved this. If you haven't checked out his channel, please do so. If you can, because like I said, he does good work. I don't always agree with him on everything, but he always makes me think, and I appreciate that if nothing else. But now I'm going to hit you up with some more stuff. Now again, this is something we've likely seen before. It's not new information, but it's just to hammer home just how deeply rooted this type of mentality that he was talking about is in the comic book industry. So we're going to share the screen again, and this is the infamous Kelly Sue DeConnick interview from 2017 that we all have seen before. And I'm just going to play this one small clip from it, which I think crystallizes exactly what Short Fat Otaku was talking about.
At their core, they're built on the foundation of, the strong, big, strong heroes go in and help the little guys, the people who are oppressed. Essentially what feminism is about.
Yes, exactly. Right? This is always when people are like, would you please get your politics out of my comic books? I'm like, what comic books are you reading? Where is the apolitical comic book that you're reading? Like, I want to go back to the comic books we were reading in my youth. The 70s, when they were incredibly political and not even...
Or you go back to the Ditko Spider-Man issues, which was, Peter Parker was getting bullied and traumatized at school.
Yes, I'm sorry to break this to you, but Captain America is a social justice warrior. I know you mean that as an insult, but there's just no, that is the definition of what he is, And if all you want to read are, I don't know, books about, I literally can't even think of what would be.
You're right. If Cap had a Twitter.
And there you go. There you go. Not only does she say, what comic books are you reading that you think are apolitical? And then when she goes, well, and if you don't read, you're trying to read, I can't even think of anything, because she is of the mindset. Everything is political. You see, little soy boy interviewer here even tries to help her out with, the Steve Ditko Spider-Man, when he's being bullied. But being bullied isn't a political thing. Being bullied is a social thing. It's a personal thing. You see? It's something that happened. I mean, I was bullied in high school. I was bullied a lot in school myself. I know what that's like. I never thought it was a political act. It was very much a personal act between me and the person that was doing it to me. That had nothing to do with politics. It had everything to do with interpersonal relationships. But again, see, when you're talking to people who believe everything is political, even the personal, well, then now you see where that ends up. You end up with soy boy cucks like this guy right here, who now says that, Steve Ditko Spider-Man, where Peter Parker is bullied, is political. No, it's not. She's crying, I can't even think of any non-political books. What are you talking about? It's like, I don't know. How about Spider-Man in the 80s? How about Kraven's Last Hunt? That's not a political story. There's no politics in that book. How about Nightfall in the Batman comics back in the 90s? Those books aren't political. It's Batman fighting all his worst villains and then having to fight the new guy on the block who ends up taking him out and he gets replaced. I mean, that's the story of Nightfall. Where's the politics? There's no politics in there. Again, no politics to a normal person, but to a political ideologue like a Kelly Sue DeMoronic, well, of course those are political, because reasons, everything is political. You can't there's no such thing as apolitical. Apolitical is a misnomer. It shouldn't even be a word in the dictionary. This is what we have. This is what we're dealing with. This is who's got their hands on the levers in this industry. This is their mentality. Comics in the 70s, they were extremely political. Actually, they weren't. What, Spider-Man teaming up with Nova to fight an alien? That's somehow political? I don't think so. I mean, sure, there were comics that were trying to push certain buttons, the most famous of them all being, of course, the Green Lantern, Green Arrow run by Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams. But there are two important facts you need to know about that storyline. First of all is that it it wasn't successful. You know, I mean, people may look at it today and go, oh, it was trailblazing and blah, 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 and all this stuff. Maybe. But at the time, you know, and Chuck Dixon has talked about this himself in some of his videos on his channel when people brought up issues relating to this, that when he went to DC back in the day, and, you know, they asked him and a bunch of guys who said they wanted to work at the company, well, what do you think is our best-selling book? And, you know, he goes, a lot of the guys with me were like saying, oh, yeah, Green Lantern, Green Arrow, that's great stuff. That's great stuff. You know, these college guys, you know, and they would school these kids and say, no, actually, that's like one of our worst selling titles. It sells like the least among all of our stuff. And Chuck says he was blown away when he heard that at the time, the best-selling title was Jonah Hex, a Western comic book. You know, and it just blew him away. They all had no idea that the book didn't sell. It may have been trailblazing in its political narratives, but, you know, and being topical and all that, but it didn't sell. And that's why the run didn't last very long, you know? And that's one facet that someone like a Kelly Sue DeConnick never looks at. So when they were overtly political, it didn't sell. Just like today, you know, you would think if you want to talk about, you know, politics in the 70s, well, look at the ones that were political in the 70s. Those books didn't sell very well. And the second thing is even when you look at those books that were more political minded back then, even then they still had an understanding of this is entertainment. This is not a political sermon. This is not meant to be a soapbox for me to sit up here and diatribe on my personal political views and telling you how if you think differently, you're a bigot. That's not what it was for. It was to entertain a mass audience. Pardon me. And that's what's missing today. You know, a Kelly Sue could never understand that because for her, everything is political. You know, she could never. So why didn't Green Lantern, Green Arrow sell better? Well, because people were bigots then? Is that what? Oh, that's got to be what the answer is, because people were bigots. It can't be because, you know, they didn't want that. It can't be because, you know, it can't be because of the politics in it, because everything's political. There is no apolitical comics. What comic books are you reading? You know, this is what we have. And, you know, you might think to yourself, oh, James, you're being way too harsh and too literal. It's just, she's just one person. She doesn't represent the entire comic book industry. She's just one person. How can you say she is representative? But as we all know, as I've shown in many past live streams, she is hardly alone. She is hardly the only one. And again, we're going to get into this. I'm going to show you not only that she's not the only one, but how quickly and devastatingly this stuff can metastasize and escalate. Oops, wrong one. Wrong share, folks. That'll be later. That'll be later. We'll share that later, I promise, but not right now. Let me get the right one here. And there it is. You know, and here we go. This is how we started out. This is how it always starts out. See, this is very, very, very famous or infamous cover, the Mockingbird cover with "Ask Me About My Feminist Agenda" by Chelsea Kane. You know, throwing it in your face. But see, this is how it starts. Now, there's nothing overtly political there, you might say. You know, other than just the fact she has the word "feminist agenda" on her shirt. But as you can see, it starts out like this, but then it grows and it goes to this. The scene here with Alfred basically calling Bruce Wayne a classist and a racist, basically. You know, all I see is an old soldier helping a very rich man leave his mansion at night in his expensive car to visit horrible beatings upon poor people. I mean, really, is that how you view Batman, Tom King? You know, that's not what he does. You know, he's not just going out on the streets and finding random poor people and kicking the shit out of them. He goes after people who are committing crimes against other people, crimes sometimes against other poor people. You know, but again, so Alfred would never say anything like this to Bruce. He knows who Bruce is. He knows what his whole crusade is about. And this is not it. So again, but got to inject those politics because this is what Tom King believes. See, this whole bubble here in the in the first panel with that second word bubble, that is Tom King's thoughts on what Batman is, on what Batman does. This is his view, not Alfred's view. He's only using Alfred as his mouthpiece. But this is what Tom King thinks of Batman. You know, and again, it grows out. Here we got, again, classic, another one, this from Jason Latour, another hard leftist, another political ideologue, makes Trump MODOK. Why? Because, well, Trump derangement syndrome. That's why. See, you can't, you know, and you might say, well, they've mocked political figures before. Sure, they have. But again, to the degree of this, I don't think so. And again, it only ever escalates, because now you go from that to this. Now you have Ta-Nehisi Coates, the racist writer who basically said that the 9/11 first responders who died meant nothing to him, and that they were just animals that he didn't care about on the day that they died trying to save people in those towers. Here he is making Jordan Peterson the Red Skull. You know, you can see right here, you know, 10 rules for life, whereas Jordan Peterson's famous book is 12 rules for life. And so that's what they're saying is, if you think like Jordan Peterson, you're a Nazi. See how it translates so quickly from just, you know, just an image on a cover, or, you know, mouthing your politics to a character, to suddenly now you're attacking real life people with the art. You know, this is how this goes. It escalates. Here's another one. She-Hulk story by Roxana Gay, where basically she just, you know, you got to remember, She-Hulk is a lawyer, and here she gets a guy 18 months in prison for abusing a woman, and yet she feels that's not punishment enough, so she goes out and stops the van when he's on his way to prison, so that she can take him out and let her the aggrieved woman who was, you know, given the justice, you know, of him going to jail, so she could do, I guess, her own justice. I mean, you know, we don't know what happens at the end there. After She-Hulk says she wants to talk to you, well, what happened after that? Did they both beat him to death? We don't know. But we can see in the background there is the police officer who is hanging out the car there, looking all injured and everything, and She-Hulk doesn't seem to give a tinker's damn. You know, this is supposed to be a hero, and they're doing the exact opposite of what a hero would do. You know, she didn't, you know, this police car wasn't trying to run her over. This police car wasn't in the hands of evildoers who were out to do damage. This was a cop who was taking this guy to prison. And this is what she does, because she feels that the punishment the guy got wasn't good enough. Which, again, this speaks to writer Roxane Gay's view. Justice isn't justice. Vengeance is justice. Revenge is justice. That's her viewpoint. And again, She-Hulk is the mouthpiece for this. And again, a character that is an arbiter, a person who supposedly upholds the law as a lawyer doing this. And of course, we got, again, it goes even further. This is from the book nobody ever read called Ignited by Mark King Baby Wade and Fake Holiday Kwanzaa Jeffo, where basically in this story is these kids you see here are all marching because they want their teachers, or, you know, or have security at school because there was a school shooting, and so they want the teachers to carry, or they want to have security on campus. And the quote unquote heroes don't agree with that take, and so they attack the kids who are protesting, and they're not doing anything, or they're not violent protesters. They're not burning and looting and attacking people. They're holding signs and chanting and speaking out truth to power and all this stuff. And for that, they're viciously assaulted, as you can see, because people who don't agree with my politics, well, they must be destroyed. That's what this says. If you don't agree with my ideology, you are a problem that must be removed. Do you see how it escalates? And see, here it is here. Eric Larson, another hard bag leftist, you know, here he is punching George W. Bush in the face, you know, bushwhacked right there at the bottom. You know, there it is. Political violence. You know, Larson doesn't like George W. Bush, although currently he might because of, you know, some of the things Bush has said recently, but he didn't like Bush then. And so therefore, let me take my character and have him punch him in the face. And you might say, oh, well, that's that's just, that's just a cartoony thing. That doesn't mean anything. It's not like it's actually really calling for violence, except, well, then you go a little bit further and you reach Bill Sienkiewicz, who created this little monstrosity here. The most punchable faces of 2017, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, calling for actual violence against a real person. Not a cartoony version of them, but a real person. And this was just one of several that he did. He did, was it the Trump brothers, and he did Tucker Carlson, he did a few others, actual calls for political violence on real people. This isn't like, some comic book character that's a fake character that doesn't exist. These are real people, and they're advocating violence on those people because they disagree with them politically. And you might say, well, okay, but that's just artwork. It's not real. It's not like they're actually saying these things. It's just artwork. It's art. Art can be anything. Art can mean anything. Okay, well, let's judge them by their words. Here we got Jerry Dugan. The folks collaborating on the X comics are cooking up the biggest story in comics right now. Talking about that X-Men gala where everyone's dressed like a gay landlord or whatever it is. The goal is to have fun, thrill our artists and editors, and give readers what they didn't know they needed. The goal is to make the artist happy. Everyone else is along for the ride. Translation, readers, you don't mean shit. We just want your money, so give it to us, and we'll throw out whatever dreck we want. And if you don't like it, just shut up. Because it's not about giving you what you want. It's not about creating a product you enjoy. It's about making ourselves satisfied with the product we make and giving you what we think you need. You see, this is it. And again, it only ever escalates from here. Jerry Conway attacking manga. American comic book artists are taken deservedly to task regularly for outrageously sexist treatment of women. Does he mean like Eddie Berganza? Is that what you're talking about? You talking about like something like that? Eric Esquivel? Is that what you mean, Jerry? No, he means just the way they're drawn. He's about women of paper and ink. That the artists are taken to task because they draw women too sexy. But rarely do I see any commentary on the rampant sexism and misogyny of manga. And manga is incredibly popular with younger readers. So what are you saying, Jerry? That younger readers are a bunch of sexists and misogynists? Is that what you're saying, Jerry? Or, and you can see here, Az from Heel vs. Babyface comes in with the perfect line for it. Creator of Power Girl cries about tits. Please, I can't stop laughing. And neither can I. And this is funny. But when you stop for a moment and get past the initial hilarity of the hypocrisy of this man saying this, you come to see that it's actually quite dangerous. He just lambasted an entire art form and the fans of it as sexist and misogynistic. Now, he later would double down on this and then say how he was shocked and awed that so many manga fans came out and attacked him because he said some manga is pederastic and misogynistic. Notice here, there's nothing indicating some. He just says rampant sexism and misogyny of manga. Manga, all manga. No differentials. No equivocating. No, nothing to indicate that there's I mean this type and not all this other stuff over here. All manga. And, this is where it comes from is his politics tell him this is what you do. When you don't like it, it's evil. And if it's against what you do, because manga is incredibly popular, as he said, with younger readers. And in fact, nowadays, all readers, as the sales have been showing for the last, year or more, more and more people are buying manga and less people are buying works from people like Jerry Conway and Jerry Dugan and Kelly Sue DeMoronic. They're buying less of their stuff and they're buying more manga. So you see, rather than say, gee, what are we doing wrong? What could we do better that would make people come and buy our stuff more? It's no, let's just tear down the one that is doing better than us. This is what they do. And again, as I said, it always escalates. It's kind of baffling that you view having a small audience as desirable. Tom Brevoort, very well-known, big-time Marvel editor. I don't view that as desirable, but bigots can keep their money. Marvel has always been about inclusion and against intolerance. Well, but you're just excluding a large group of people there, Tom, and you're being intolerant about it because they want to give you their money for the works they enjoyed, and you've changed them into something they aren't. And then when they complain, now they're bigots all of a sudden, and they can keep their money. You see, this is what I'm saying. Now he just an entire, again, the audience. He's attacking the audience that he should be catering to. But again, his politics tells him that if they don't like this stuff we make with these politics being shoved in their face, they are a problem. They don't matter. You know, everyone's favorite trans whiner, Mags Visaggio. The world is a terrible and everything sucks, and comic books and video games are fertile grounds for white nationalists to recruit aggrieved young men. But anyway, how are you? Oh, what a lovely sentiment. I mean, there's a whole lot we can unpack in there, but just the whole point about white nationalists recruiting aggrieved young men. Well, first of all, why are the young men aggrieved? Does anybody stop to ask that question? Does anybody think about why that is? Could it be because of people like Mags Visaggio who are attacking them like this way? Could it be because of people like Tom Brevoort who call them bigots and say, we don't want your money? Could it be because of people like Kelly Sue DeMoronic telling you that, you know, she doesn't understand what apolitical comics you read because there are no apolitical comics, bigots? I mean, could that be the reason why they're aggrieved? I mean, you know, and again, that is fertile ground, comic books and video games. I'm sorry, the same comic books and video games are infested with people with the politics of Mags Visaggio, Tom Brevoort, and Kelly Sue DeMoronic and Jerry Conway. Those comics and video games, those companies, those are the fertile grounds. So, I mean, are you saying what? Are you guys the white nationalists? Because that's how I have to read that one. Because I certainly don't see it the other way around of like, you know, the classic, what you would call the classic white nationalists, you know, like some neo-Nazi types who are somehow controlling the comic book and video game industry when they're both bending over backwards to please people who you know, who claim to hate those things. You see, again, it's when everything is political. When everything is political. Here's bitch boy Andy Curry, who thankfully is no longer in the industry. That's one down and innumerable ones to go. What people actually mean when they say they want non-political comics like when they were kids is that they are devastated to have woken up one day as an adult, read a comic book, and realized they'd grown up to become the kind of person their childhood hero punches in the face. So once again, another act of violence, you know, calling for violence against people who don't agree with him politically. And again, non-political in quotes, because again, just like Kelly Sue DeMoronic, there are no apolitical comics. They're all political. Everything is political. Even the personal, even the private, it's all political. So you're just bigots. You just woke up one day and suddenly you found out, wait, I'm the bigot I was reading getting beaten up in the comics when I was a kid. No, that's not the case. Because if that was the case, they wouldn't have been reading those comics in the first place. But of course, again, such logic is beyond people like Andy Curry, because again, none of that matters. All that matters is the utopian ideal expressed in their political ideology. Here's Eric Larson. You know, we already saw that he draws political violence, but he has no problem with it either. You know, someone says to him, okay, well, that's what people are talking about when they complain about politics and comics. Nobody's complaining that Cap punched SS troops. They're complaining that some creators seem to think they need to bend over backwards to annoy and denigrate any conservative readers. Or I would say not even just conservatives, but any readers that do not follow the hard left political leanings of the creators in question. Anybody. It doesn't even, you don't even have to be conservative. You could be, you know, center left, you know, and they would come after you. And then, you know, then Eric Larson, people bitch about all kinds of things being political. If Captain America punches a Nazi today, it's viewed as a veiled criticism of President Trump because Nazis support Trump and he called them some very fine people. Again, lots to unpack there. First is the whole thing with Charlottesville. Of course, that's not what Trump said. He condemned the white supremacists who were at that event. He even stated that in the full clip. When you watch what he said, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and white supremacists, they should be condemned totally. I mean, how much more obvious and blatant can you be in saying you're not talking about those people? But yet, Larson keeps that lie going because that suits his political leanings, his political narratives. But, you know, it's a veiled criticism, you know, of showing it. But is it really veiled when you do things like I've shown with Ta-Nehisi Coates, taking, you know, Jordan Peterson's book title and ascribing it to the Red Skull? When you make MODOK into Trump, is it really veiled at that point? Because that doesn't seem very veiled to me. That seems kind of like in your face, kind of like throwing up a double bird right to your face. So really, it's not veiled at all. It's in your face. It's showing the Savage Dragon on the cover, socking George Bush in the face, and then saying "bushwhacked" on the bottom. Is that veiled? Is it? Is the most punchable faces in 2017 Sarah Huckabee Sanders? Is that a veiled criticism? Is that a veiled threat of violence? I don't think so. And then good old Fail Simone. And this gets to what you see in the industry itself. The tent poles that hold up the industry are white, cis, straight, able-bodied, and male. It's okay to chip away at that. Yes, it's always good. So if you next time, kids, you go out to a circus and you're in the big top, make sure to chip away at the tent poles, because that's only going to lead to good things, not the whole entire collapse of the structure on your head. But then again, this is the same person, along with Kelly Sue DeMoronic, who did that infamous picture of them doing duck faces, saying, "Sorry, we took over the comic book industry. Sorry, not sorry." So again, but look at what she says here: cis, white, straight, able-bodied male. So there it is. This is the out group. This is the group you're supposed to hate. See, these are people who say they're all against hatred and exclusion and intolerance. But yet, this group that she labeled out, well, it's okay to treat them that way. That's fine. It's okay. Go ahead, treat them like they're it's okay. It's perfectly fine. That's not bigotry. It's not bigotry when it's white, cis, straight, able-bodied males that it's done to. That's not bigotry. This is where it is. This is someone who is so enmeshed in their politics, they cannot see the forest for the trees and see that they are the fascist. They are the bigot that they claim to hate. And everyone's favorite sperm bank donor, sperm bank collector there, Heather Antos. What's the worst? What thing has the worst fans? America. Just the whole entire country. Just everybody. America. The country that's given her everything. Her freedom, her liberty, her prosperity. Everything she has is because of America. But, it has the worst fans. Again, the hatred inside of these people as they try to tell you that you're the hater. It's all projection. But again, her political ideology tells her it's okay to hate America. It's okay to hate, cis, straight, able-bodied white males. That's okay to hate them. That's not real hatred. And if you think again, maybe she's just trying to be funny. Maybe it was just a joke. Well, maybe you could say that if you didn't have something like this. Love when white Americans use the excuse of traditional views as an excuse to be bigots, as if other cultures and traditions don't also exist. Where have white Americans ever said other cultures and traditions don't exist? They may not like them. They may not agree with them. I mean, I sort of don't agree with the Islamic cultures where they subjugate women and want to throw homosexuals off rooftops. I don't agree with those. That's their culture. But, and those are their traditions, but I don't agree with those. Am I a bigot because I oppose that? I thought that was something you're supposed to be against. But again, Americans, white and white Americans, see, that's okay. It's okay to hate white people and especially white Americans. That's okay. It's okay to be bigots to those people. And quotes, traditional views. You mean classic liberalism, like the founders? You mean, believing in like the Bill of Rights and the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, that those traditional values, the values of capitalism and people, being able to come here with nothing but a buck and a dream in their pocket and making it that tradition, because I like those traditions. I kind of agree with those traditions a lot. I think those are good traditions to have. But I'm a white American, so what do I know? I'm just a bigot according to Heather Antos. And you got Tom I Ain't King right here, the soy boy himself, the guy who ruined Batman. Love seeing people at cons, but yesterday we had Rorschach cosplayer who took off his mask at our table. You think I swear a lot in comics? You should see me in person. After an impolite talking to, Rorschach was escorted from the con. Wear your mask. We're not fucking around. And of course, this is his famous PSYOP post because it didn't happen. The con itself came out and said, yeah, there were no incidents here at our convention during that weekend. So this didn't happen. Tom King made this up for virtue. For why? Why did he make it up? Right here. This right here. That's why he did it. That's the only reason he did it, for the virtue signaling points. Oh, look at me. I'm so good. I will say this. I fully believe if somebody, wasn't there with a mask or took a mask off around him or whatever, that he would be a Karen to do exactly what he says here. I believe he would do this. In this case, it didn't happen. He made it all up. But I believe he would do this. And again, it shows you, notice the progression. It goes from, the characters to suddenly to the audience, to suddenly white people, to suddenly Americans, to suddenly now anybody who won't wear a mask. And now it goes from just, I think you're a bigot, to now I swear at you, and I'm impolite talking to. You see how it's escalating slowly over time, more and more and more and more. Here's Eric Larson again. Once the vaccine is in active use, we're going to need to make sure anti-vaxxers and other numbskulls actually take it, and I think that's going to mean making unvaccinated people social pariahs by not allowing them to attend sporting events, enter bars, restaurants, theaters, etc. So basically to turn people into second-class citizens for not wanting to get an experimental vaccine for which we don't know what the side effects are, we don't know what the long-term effects are, we don't know what the efficacy is, we don't know how many times we're going to have to get it. Because you have hesitancy to want to do that and say, oh yeah, jab me up, you should be treated like a second-class citizen. And here's the funny part. In this, as a little side note, he's talking about making the anti-vaxxers and other numbskulls. So you're actually denigrating a large portion of minority groups, because black and brown people are among some of those who are the least vaccinated in the country. Now, I'm sure if you asked Eric Larson, should black people be treated like second-class citizens, kind of like how they were in post, during the era of segregation, I'm sure he would say, oh no, that's absolute racism. But yet here he is calling for the exact same thing, because they won't let themselves be injected with an experimental vaccine that was rushed to market in the shortest time ever in human history. And is now only under, and it hasn't even been approved by anybody. It's just under emergency usage. And because they won't accept that, they need to be treated like second-class citizens. But I'm against black people being treated like second-class citizens. Well, unless they don't get the vax, and then I'm okay with it. I mean, again, the contradictions in their own ideology. His ideology would tell him, black people are better than white people. So you can't correct them on anything. You can't disagree with them on anything. You can't, if they commit a crime, just let them go because, they're black. You have no right to hold them to any standards. And yet here, he'll hold them to this standard and tell them that they're numbskulls, which, if I were to say black people were numbskulls, well, I'd be the biggest racist walking the planet since the Ku Klux Klan started. That's what I would be. But here's Eric Larson saying the very same thing, but yet somehow it's okay for him to say it. Why? Well, because he's saying it about people who don't want to get the vax. And again, upping the ante. He goes from yelling at people like Tom King will to let's make people social pariahs. Let's make them second-class citizens and ban them from society. These are anti-liberal ideas from people who claim to be liberals. But again, this is what being constantly political does to your mind. And here's another dickhead, good old Patrick Zurcher. Many in Comicsgate are the same personalities that would have been among the first to join the Nazi Party. They think stupidly in extremes, they worship a leader, and they desire enemies to rage at. Hail Caesar is not far removed from Heil Hitler. I'm sorry. They think stupidly in extremes. Oh, you mean like saying the worst thing with fans is America? Like saying that that if you don't get the vax, you should be treated like a second-class citizen? That kind of like stupidly thinking in extremes and desiring enemies to hate? You mean like people who aren't vaccinated, like that? People who don't share your political viewpoint? I mean, again, the hilariousness of the hypocrisy in this. He's accusing others of being, they'd be the first to join the Nazi Party, and yet him and his group are the first ones to join the party with the vaccine. And if you don't join, well, we got to round you up and treat you like a pariah. I mean, isn't that kind of the same thing, the same level of mentality there? But again, they can't see this. They never see this. It's only those they hate that are the problem. You know, it's always, you know, I remember I got into a discussion one time on a forum. No, on a blog. And someone brought up something, and I mentioned how in propaganda you always otherize the people you hate. And I said, you know, this happened, you know, with Christians way in the past when they used to call people heretics. It happened when the Nazis called the Jews rats and vermin. It happened when, you know, the communists in Russia, like Stalin, would refer to the West as capitalist pigs. And I said it happens in modern times when you see, you know, jihadist movements who refer to the West as the imperialist infidels. It's all to otherize them, to say those people aren't like us. They're not really people even. So whatever you do to them is okay, even if it would be considered nasty being done to us. It's okay to do it to them because they're not like us. You otherize them. And some guy came and attacked me for it, and the guy whose blog it was actually came in and did a whole blog post about it. And he said how he agreed with me. He goes, yes, he admitted that what he was saying in his original, I was not being it's not as pernicious as the Nazis. He goes, but how could you talk about a discussion about propaganda and not bring up the Nazis? They perfected it. He goes, it's always the other, because in debates like this, it's always the other guy that's the problem, isn't it? And that's the mentality of a Patrick Zurcher, of a Tom King, of an Eric Larson, of a Kelly Sue DeMoronic, of a Fail Simone, of all these people. It's the other people, the others, the ones who don't think like us. They're the problem. Never mind that here he is the one raging, looking for enemies. Here he is the one thinking stupidly in extremes. Him and Eric Larson and all the rest. They're the ones doing it, but yet they claim that's what the people they don't like do. Again, this is where always political gets you. And again, it just keeps escalating. Here you got colorist Moose Bowman. Go fuck yourself, Nazi ass clown, to someone who might obviously be a woman. If you go by their profile pic there, you seem nice. And then go suck a dick. Now, if I said that to Fail Simone or to Kelly Sue DeMoronic, I would be called the biggest misogynist around. But here Moose Bauman says it to a woman, and well, that's okay because reasons. You know, they do the very things they say they hate. You know, if someone told a woman Moose Bauman liked or cared about to go suck a dick, he'd be pissed off and saying what a raging, hateful, sexist misogynist that person is. But here he is doing it to someone, well, it's okay for him. Rules for thee, but not for me. Again, this is why I titled this stream as I did. Always political equals constantly insufferable, which is what these people are. They are constantly insufferable. This is why we can't stand them. This is why their work doesn't sell. This is why people don't want to deal with them anymore. This is why we just want them to go away, because they're insufferable this way. Their hypocrisy and their stupidity and their projection and all of this, because they can't get past their own political viewpoint. And then, of course, here we are, the ultimate. This is where we reached kind of like the apex to me. Marvel editor Alana Smith. Make no mistake, even if Trump loses, we will remember who supported him. I mean, that's just a direct threat to creators in the industry, to people working in the industry, to the readership, to everybody. To everybody. This is where, ultimately, where always political leads you. That anybody who thinks differently than you will remember, and we're going to get you. See, the implied threat of will remember. Why would you bother to remember who supported him if he wins or loses? I mean, if he wins, maybe you remember because he won. But even if he loses, she says, will remember. Why would you bother to remember who voted for who? I mean, isn't it, shouldn't it be the case of you voted? If your guy lost, oh well, better luck next election. I mean, that's how it goes, right? But here, even if the guy we hate loses, we'll remember who supported him. Why? To single them out for retribution? To single them out for punishment? To single them out for, harassment and worse, violence? I mean, that's what this says. That's all I can see here with this is an implied threat of retribution and violence. Because you did something I don't agree with. You voted in a way that goes against what I think. So therefore, you must be penalized. And again, this is what always political gets you. This is where it always will end up. This is how you end up with the death of millions in the end. That's how you get the Cambodia killing fields. That's how you get the Gulag Archipelago. This is how you get the Holocaust. This is how you get those things with people who go here. And again, as you saw, it's progressive. I guess that's why you can call them progressives, because they progress the anger, they progress the animosity, they progress the hatred to the point where you reach the apex. And this is the problem. They can't understand and separate politics from private life, from personal life, because for them, everything is political. And if you think that they're saying, well, maybe they don't understand that concept, maybe it's something that they don't quite get. Well, that's not true either, because, well, I mean, we got here, this is where it leads. You see, Joe Bennett getting kicked out by Marvel because of political reasons. And then you got Dark Horse. It's not just straight white boy comics anymore. So, again, attacking the consumer base. So they attack their colleagues, they attack the consumers. This is where it all leads. This is a foregone conclusion. This was always going to happen. And again, they knew it was coming. They knew it was going to happen. And they did know better, because here we are here with dickhead Patrick Zurcher. Adversely, you could try telling the difference between a tweet about politics and one about comics. If politics are the sole means on which you judge people, you're too enmeshed in politics. The funny thing is, no one objects to a political opinion as long as it is the same as theirs. I mean, and this is 2020. You saw the previous one was from 2021. It was that was 2019, and this is 2020. Wow, what a difference a year makes, it seems. He went from, anybody who doesn't think like me thinks and is stupidly thinking in extremes, and they're basically a Nazi, to now, if politics are your sole means on which you judge people, you're too enmeshed in politics. What happened there? What happened there? But of course, he's still the same way. He's, if you, again, I did a recent live stream where I showed you some more recent stuff from him, threatening to hoodwink the people in Comicsgate about, saying, coming out saying he is Comicsgate, and then sending them a progressive woke comic instead. So he hasn't changed, but it's funny to see him, of all people, say, if politics are your sole means on which you judge people, you're too enmeshed in politics. Well, what were you doing just in that previous tweet? What are you doing constantly on Twitter right now, Patrick Zurcher? So, I mean, what was this? Was this a rare moment where, an electric impulse reached your brain and you thought for a minute, oh, wait a minute, that's kind of harsh. No, I mean, so they do know better. They know that what they do is wrong, but they don't care. They want to keep going forward with it because it's what they want to do. Again, the political goal, utopia. Like Short Fat Otaku told you, they anything they do in the service of the ideal is fine, no matter how bad what they may do is. It could be the most horrendous evil that you could think of, that if it was visited upon them, they would tell you it makes you a monster to do that. You're a monster to say that to Kelly Sue DeMoronic. You're a monster to say that to Mags Visaggio. But yet they can say those things to you, and it's okay. Why? Because they're doing it in service to the narrative, to the political view, to the ideal for utopia. And it's all going to be, it's just a whole classic case of the ends justifying the means. It doesn't matter how many bad things I do and say, because in the end, we're going to get to this utopia I'm trying to build for you, and we'll all be happy. But of course, meanwhile, as we're trying to get to this imaginary utopia of theirs, they're doing horrible things, and yet they know better, as Patrick Zurcher shows. And again, it's not just on the personal side, even in the business side, they know better. As again, Heather Antos, everyone's favorite sperm bank receptacle here, because the content in them isn't what the book market audience wants also. You can't force an audience that isn't interested in your content to magically be interested in said content. Yes, that is why the books aren't selling, like Kelly Sue was whining about in that other interview from 2019, because people don't want that content. They aren't interested in your politics. They don't care that you hate Trump. They don't care that you don't like certain things. They don't care what your socio-political views on the environment or on, race relations or anything else is. They don't care. We just want to be entertained. We want the characters that we grew up with that entertained us to keep entertaining us. We want Spider-Man to team up with Nova and fight aliens. We want Batman to go out and whip the ass of some criminal street gangs. That's what we want. We want those things. We don't care if that doesn't fit into your political viewpoint. We don't care if that's not what your utopian ideals tell you is a great thing. That doesn't matter. This is what we want. And your job is to bring us this, but you're not. That's why we're not buying. That's why sales are down. That's why books don't sell. That's why creators who are bankable are no longer bankable. That's why the industry is contracting. All the things Kelly Sue said, that's why those are happening. And they know it. But again, they refuse to accept any personal responsibility or culpability because their political ideology informs them that I'm doing the right things. This is how they view that. This is what they do. You know, and again, it just ever only escalates. It never backs off. It never slows down. It never takes a break. It never eases off. It's only more. That's all they do. It's all they do. And, you know, I wish they could understand that there is a private side. There is a personal side to things, that everything isn't political. But then again, for them, everything being political is the only way they can have power. Otherwise, you know, they have no power as far as they're concerned. Power is politics, and everything has to have their politics in it. And so I'm going to get here and show you, but I'm going to show you here with another one coming up here as soon as we get past the ad on it, because I hate YouTube anymore. I really do. You want to have the ads, save them to the end, YouTube, and then I can go ahead and just, you know, X out of the video and not have to watch them. But yeah, I'm going to give you another video here. This is from the great Eric July, aka Ripper59, right here on YouTube, and he goes into just how badly all this woke nonsense goes. You know, how it hurts, you know, everything. You know, why the sales aren't there, why the people aren't making the money. You know, all the things Kelly Sue said in that 2019 interview. He explains perfectly to you in this next video exactly why all that is. So let me just get that going here for you, and let me throw on the closed captioning, because you definitely want to get the closed captioning for that. And we'll turn on the sound, and
I'm going to show y'all something. And this will also apply to probably some things that you guys know. You see that there are a lot of the social justice left who thinks that they are entitled to your money. They think that they are owed your support, and it's just obvious in the way that they talk, because they look at it like, well, X people or types of people don't generally support our work or won't support our work. And then they, instead of either adjusting to the market demands, they think there's something wrong with the customers. Retailers or something that are making the adjustments based on what the demand is, because they feel entitled to your money. It's because that's obviously applied to all sorts of state socialists, because that's their approach to everything else. They think they're entitled to your money. They want to force the government to take it from you, take money from you, to then subsidize their bad ideas. That's just par for course for them. But here's another example with Shang-Chi.
See, and there it is. They feel entitled to your money. This is why they complain about it. This is why you see the complaints. You know, people saying, "Oh, I can't make a living in comics anymore. It's so hard. It's too hard." Because they feel they're entitled. I should be able to make a living. Well, okay, but you have to make a product that the consumer wants. But they don't care about that, because for them, they don't care what the consumer wants. They care what their politics wants.
Actually, just to give some backstory, is looking like it might be an absolute failure. Now, I'm not saying failure in terms of the movie being bad. I'm saying in terms of box office response, at minimum in context to the rest of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We talked about it yesterday. A lot of the box office projections are looking at Shang-Chi as if it's going to be the worst ever like Marvel Cinematic Universe movie in terms of box office performance. Now, Disney and the actor that is playing Shang-Chi is Like, their promotional tour is the complete opposite of what it should have been, right? See, the actor, for example, did not sell this movie. And, you know, they're all locked in with each other in terms of how they market this. See, he didn't sell the movie based on, hey, I'm going to embody who Shang-Chi was in the comic book. So comic book fans are going to be enthusiastic about it. And this is also something for everybody that may be fans of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So Cinematic Universe, it'll be a good movie for you guys to see, and it'll be cool, and it'll maybe a off-brand for what you generally expect from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but it'll be good. See, they didn't sell it based on that. Instead, he couldn't keep his mouth shut about, okay, look at me, I'm Asian American, as if he's the first fucking Asian American that we've seen in a martial arts movie. But going back to
and there it is. See, there it is. The politics informed the marketing. Don't market to say, hey, this is a great, awesome book from, you know, we're taking from the 70s, we're bringing to the big silver screen for you, and, you know, here's going to be filled with awesome kung fu action, and, you know, you're going to see lots of great stuff. No. It's all based on identity politics. Look at me. It's an Asian American movie filled with almost an entirely Asian cast. All this stuff, they put it along lines of their political views of diversity, inclusion, and equity. Die as it were, which is funny because that's exactly whenever you put that as your marketing, whenever you put that as the backdrop, whenever you put that as the forefront of what you're trying to do in your work creatively, it's gonna die. DIE, diversity, inclusion, and equity. There it is. And that's how they marketed the film, and that's how they market their comics, and that's how they market sports now, and that's how they market so many other things, and they fail again and again and again and again. Comics is one of the worst ones that's failing badly because, again, they were never huge money makers anyway. They haven't been, you know, in like 50 years, they haven't been huge money makers. But this is what it is they feel entitled to your money, and so they don't have to make it in a way that appeals to you on a personal, private level. Their politics will decide what the marketing should be. Their politics will decide what you're supposed to think, what you're supposed to accept. And if you don't, you're the problem, not them.
To my original point, here's a TikTok. Remember, all the stupid people are on TikTok. And she's looking at, matter of fact, I'm just going to play it, and then I'll give commentary on what's going on here in a bit. Let's look it over.
They were in Target, a little upset by what I'm seeing here. Their Shang-Chi toys are already on clearance, already on double clearance. And movies not out yet, you guys. Also, that's super cool. I don't know, these toys are super cool. What are we doing in the clearance section? Can we give the movie a chance, maybe? Oh, not impressed, Target.
So obviously she's blaming Target. So she's blaming Target for Target basically saying, goddamn, we can't sell these goddamn things, man. So please buy it, and we'll make it for basically under $10, right? Look. Again, like I said, people thinking that they're entitled to your money. She's saying, hey guys, the movie's not even out. That tells you more than what you need to. That tells you more than what you need to know. Because that's explaining to you. Double clearance, when they put it on clearance and the clearance item couldn't sell, so they put the bitch on clearance squared. Like, please, they're basically handing the bitch out for free at this point. Please buy this. Please. We already holding the L. We're not gonna, you know, in terms of what we paid Marvel in order to, you know, get these on the shelf, we're not gonna turn any sort of profit based on this. Just take it for something, man. Nobody wants it. But she says that's kind of sad, and I believe that it is sad. It's a failure of marketing, failure to get people enthusiastic about your product. And which you consider how big that brand is in Marvel. This should have never happened. But it ain't about, okay, you guys giving it a chance. It's again, the audience has decided that that's not something they're going to be stoked. Maybe people that, you know, Google normies and cosplayers and those weirdos that make stand accounts on Twitter, you're finding, and the Marvel Cinematic Universe is finding this out, and may find out the very harsh way that is a very unreliable audience. They're flaky, man. And they may move on to the next thing. Now, the comic book fans will still be around. Actually, no, you push them away. You sacrifice them, actually. So no, they won't be around. So it's gonna be interesting to see how how it plays out. But seriously,
and there it is. You see, there it is. They again, how much of that have we all heard in this industry? You know, they threw over the audience they had for an audience that never showed up. We've heard that before, haven't we? We've seen that. And again, it all goes down to what he says: the entitlement to your money and the fact that they think that their politics are all that matters. There is no apolitical marketing. It's all political. There is no apolitical storytelling. It's all political. And, you know, so I guess when you don't give them your money, that's also political. You're being you're politically withholding your money by not buying our junk. I mean, it's amazing. It's just amazing.
Not entitled to anybody's money. It's not on, like, see, this is what happens. And you heard me talk about this among my like YouTube colleagues, like be a Neurotic or Ass from Heel versus Babyface. Him and I talked about this before. And they look at it like these weirdos look at it like not just her types. Well, no, it is her types. They just are in different sectors of the industry. So comic book pros, actors, actresses, access media, all these guys feel as if the audience must prove something to the company, right? It's like you have to prove to yourself that you're worthy of supporting my work. That's how they look at it, which is why it's so strange for this person to see Shang-Chi, which is supposed to be, oh my God, look at all the Asians and the protagonists and all the Asian kids will finally see themselves. That's what they sold the movie on. And you didn't get anybody enthusiastic about it with that type of promotion. We don't even know if the movie's any good. I don't know. All the reviews are just ranting and raving about Asian representation and shit. The fuck they got to do with if the movie's any good?
And there it is. You have to prove yourself to them. It goes back to something Sana Amanat, who's now one of the big heads at Marvel, said when someone asked at a I think a convention or maybe it was some podcast she did. I can't recall exactly, but she said that people ask all the time, what do I have to do? How can I get noticed by Marvel? What do I do? How can I, get you to check me out? And her whole thing was, don't come to us. We'll find you. Used to be historically when you went for a job, you would take your portfolio with you to a convention or to maybe, some kind of event where editors and people, who make those decisions would be, and you'd show them your stuff, and if they liked it enough, hey, maybe you get a job, maybe you get a gig out of that. But that's not how it is now. Now it is they want you to prove yourself to them. You have to prove you're worthy to work at Marvel, not by merit of skill, like, oh, you're a really great artist or you tell really great stories, but through politics. Your politics have to match our politics. See, that's why it's suddenly now, don't come to us, we'll find you, is so that they can screen out the undesirables, the deplorables, as it were. That's what they want, to get rid of those people. We don't want any more of those people in here. We only want like minds. We want an echo chamber of our ideals that say, this is how you get to utopia. And this is what we're dealing with. This is, and again, as he's saying, this is not just comic industry wise, but everywhere. It's societal wise. Find me a company that hasn't. Gillette did this. Nike has done this. Everywhere. It's everywhere, and there's no escaping it.
But they look at it like they're owed, like we owe them something, right? It's not how it works. We're the customers, man. So you have to prove to us that your product is something that we want to get. And clearly with Shang-Chi right now, the customers have decided not so much. Some will, but not so much. So just give it a chance. That's not our job. And especially with the direction that they're going in, especially, I don't owe Marvel the benefit of the doubt for any fucking thing, right? Now, I've never been one of those guys like Az and all those guys and Gary, they get the, figures, and I've never been that guy. So I'm not going to sit up here and pretend like I would have been, if it was a character that I cared about, I would have went lined up and got it. No, but somebody would have. People that participate, that's their hobby, they absolutely would have. So you had to go out of your way to lay an egg like that in order to get people not enthusiastic about your project. Something went disastrously wrong. But the problem is they'll never seem to understand that because they don't want to understand it. Because they operate like, hey, look at me. You should be supporting our project. It's being done for all the right reasons, right? Diversity, representation, all of those buzz terms. That's why we did it. So you're supposed to support it because you want to be a good guy. It's not the best marketing scheme.
And there it is. Bottom line, there it is. The great Eric July, folks, spelling it out for you in clear and simple terms. They think because they have their political view that you should just support it just for that reason. I got the right politics. You should be supporting me right now. You want to be a good person, don't you? You want to be a good, virtuous person like me, don't you? You got to support my stuff. But we don't have to support your stuff. And then when we don't, you call us bigots. You see how that works? And it just doubles down. They create work that's based on their politics, not on entertainment. They market it not based on merit, but on their politics. And then when you reject it because you don't want those politics in the entertainment you want to consume, they double down and say, well, you're a bigot. And then when their industries start to falter, they blame everybody and everything else. Oh, it's the C virus. Oh, it's piracy online. Oh, it's falling sales numbers in publication and in print. It's all these. It's because comic shops are closing because the comic retailers don't know how to run their businesses properly. It's everybody else's fault but theirs. There is none. There's no one. There is no creator on there right now. As much as Kelly Sue was crying in that video I showed last time about how the utter contracting state of the industry, all that hand wringing, all that whining she did, and not one time, not once, did you ever hear her say anything about like, yeah, you know, we probably shouldn't have attacked consumers like we did online so much. We probably shouldn't have injected quite so much of our own personal politics into these characters that are beloved, you know, that don't fit our politics. You know, we shouldn't have done that. We should have probably been a little more thinking about more what sells to the people who actually buy this product rather than saying, let's try to throw them over for an audience that may or may not show up. You know, none of that was, and there was no self-reflection, no introspection whatsoever. It was all it's just, here's these problems, and well, we don't know why, or it's these esoteric reasons on the outside. That's why, that's the reason. Has nothing to do with us. We're good people. We're virtuous people. Don't you see? We believe in diversity, inclusivity, and equity. We're the good people. It can't be our fault. But yet, that's exactly what it is. You know, again, doing what I do, selling original art. If I went out and I attacked everybody who buys original art and called them bigots and Nazis and white supremacists and all that stuff, I mean, you know, do you think I'd be selling a whole lot of art from my artists? I don't think I would. I don't think that would be happening. You know, but again, these people, this isn't how they view things. This isn't how they operate. This isn't the way they view anything. They all, everything is their politics, and anything that isn't their politics is just wrong. It's evil. It must be stopped. It must be squelched. It must be silenced. And you know, it's funny as I'm listening to all this stuff, like from Eric July and Short Fat Otaku. One of the things I'm noticing is, I just recently, the other night, I was up late and I was watching TV, and an old episode of The Twilight Zone came on, the original series, the Rod Serling one, the good one. And it was one of my favorite episodes, called Number 12 Looks Just Like You. And for those of you who in the audience who may not know what that episode is, it's about a futuristic society where everybody is made beautiful by choosing from a small selection of body types, so that everyone sort of looks the same and everyone sort of acts the same. There is no difference in anything. You know, everybody's the same. And there's this one girl who has finally come of age who doesn't want to be transformed the way everyone else has been. And the people in this society don't understand what her issue is. They keep telling her all the time, what's wrong with being beautiful? Why don't you want to be beautiful? And she's like, I don't care about that. I want to be, her whole thing is, I want to keep, basically saying, I want to keep my individuality as a person. I don't want to be like everybody else. I don't want to be just part of the collective. I don't want to be part of the homogeny. I want to be me. And they don't understand this. You know, most of them don't understand this. And the few who do, they do understand, because they know that what they do is they want to make everybody the same. And they know they can only keep power and everything if everyone is the same. And that's why they do what they do. And there's a scene where she speaks to her friend. And this is the mentality that these types of always political, always insufferable types, this is the mentality that they have. Now, I can't put on closed captioning on this one. For some reason, it's not going to allow me to do that because of for some reason, I guess maybe low quality of the recording, and the sound isn't the best. Hopefully you'll be able to hear it, but if not, I'll definitely repeat it to you after it's run. It's a very short, like 17-second video. It's not going to take very long, but you know, it's this right here, and let's put the volume on. What happened there? Oh, there we go. And we'll wait. What? No, that's not it. Go back. There it is. Okay. Sorry, folks. Boomering it up. You know how it goes. That's how it works around here.
Can't you feel anything? Oh, of course, silly. I feel good. I always feel good. Life is pretty. Life is fun. I am all, and all is one.
Did you catch that? Life is pretty, life is fun. I am all, and all are one. This is the world that the Kelly Sue DeMoronics want to bring about. This is their utopia, where everybody thinks exactly what they want them to think. We all think the same. Nobody differentiates. Nobody flies in the face. There is no dissent. There is no other options. There is no alternatives. It is this is what you believe because this is what we all believe, and this is how they are. And again, I was watching the episode, and I've always liked it, but as I was listening to some of the things these people said, when you saw the one girl, the one who was still not beautiful yet. She's talking to the doctor, and the doctors want to keep her overnight. So they, why are you going to force me? You're not going to force me to get the transformation, are you? And like, no. No one's ever been forced to undergo a transformation if they didn't want it. The question we need to figure out is why you don't want it, and then to make the proper adjustments to her thinking, so that she thinks the way they want them to. So that then she will accept transformation, you see? And that's exactly what these people are. Their politics do the same thing that the transformation process does in that episode. It makes them think a certain way, and everyone has to. And if you don't think like that, they don't understand you. What's your problem? Why can't you just get with the program? Why are you being such a bigot? What are you, a white supremacist? You see, they don't have a transformation process to change your thought processes. So what do they use? They use shame, they use scorn, they use ridicule, they use, coercion, they use ostracization, as you saw with Eric Larson's thing about people who refuse to get the vaccine. Oh, well, we'll just have to make them second-class citizens and ban them and ostracize them from society. This is what they do. This is where that leads. You see, that's where it goes, and it's a scary thing. We should all be afraid. We should all be very, very afraid of where this is all going, because it's leading us nowhere good. I can guarantee you that much, if nothing else. These always political people, this is why they're such joyless people. I mean, you've seen Kelly Sue's face. You saw her in that video. Does that sound like a joyful person? Does that sound like a happy person? No, she sounds miserable. She sounds like a miserable person. And I'm sure that she is. I'm sure she is a miserable person. And that's again what this leads to, is when it's always political, when everything is about your politics, you become an insufferable person because you're miserable all the time. Because when it comes to your politics, everyone isn't going to agree with you. I mean, trust me, I know. Not everyone's going to agree with everything you say. I mean, you may want them to, but they're not. And if you can't accept it, you're going to be a miserable person. And that's what always political people are. They're at their heart miserable people. But again, I don't want to end this on a bad note, with the fear of, oh God, these people are unstoppable. They're not unstoppable. They are dangerous. They are harmful, but they're not unstoppable. And Eric July, once again, the great Eric July, he did a video just today where he spoke on this. And I'm gonna again let him do the speaking here, because again, he's got those great words of wisdom. I'll interject when necessary. What's going on?
Many times about creating them and what I'm doing with.
Come on. Sorry about this, folks. Like I said, coming to hate YouTube more and more every day. Come on, come on. I'll do is I'll get out of that. Let me see if I can bring it up again. Maybe I can do it that way. Okay, seem to be slowly bringing it up now. All right, come on.
Something a little more lighthearted, if you will. So not really.
Okay, now I can share it. Now it's starting to work. All right, now we can share it. Share the screen. And here it is.
A very serious subject. Look, alternatives, and we've discussed many times about creating them, and what I'm doing with comic books, what I'm attempting to do, my direct competition being Marvel and DC, not the random person that has one comic book character. That's not my competition. My competition is with them. Building extravagant universes for people to get very invested in. That's what I'm trying to build. So the question is why? Right? I don't think we've answered it, but not to the degree of dedicating the entire segment for it. It's about alternatives, but why the alternative? The reason being is because we've seen that mainstream has taken advantage of subculture. Really, it's authoritarian left that's doing this. That has been existing for so long, right? You're talking about properties that have existed for ages. When you think Marvel, let's think of the ones we have problems with now in the direction. Marvel, DC.
Students with dyslexia like me save 10 hours a week studying using this Chrome extension.
But no, by all means.
Star Trek, Star Wars. Brands that really try to even bait you with their nostalgia. And then they're bastardizing virtually everything that I wouldn't even say they created, because it's really just a bunch of group of blue-haired weirdos who are now in control of these guys who are writing bad, maybe stories based upon them. So when we talk about alternatives, the idea isn't simply just to create something that is in a similar space just for the sake of doing it. I've said many times that just being an alternative isn't good enough. You have to be good at it. So when I talk about prepping.
So there it is. He just outlined exactly what's going on right now, with the whole bastardization of all these great properties. We love Doctor Who, Star Trek, Star Wars, Terminator, Ghostbusters, Marvel Comics, DC Comics, Dark Horse Comics, all these characters we've grown up with, loved, that we made icons for generations, and they're all being ruined by these as he said, blue-haired weirdos, which is basically, as he said, the authoritarian left. People like your Kelly Sue DeConnicks and your Tom Kings and all of their ilk who think the way I've just shown you here today. Your Heather Antoses, they're all destroying these things because they have no respect for them. Because it doesn't. None of that matters. Respect for the creation, respect for the audience, none of that matters. All that matters is the political message. Are we pushing that political message out? Yes. Is that political message dominating this space? Yes. That's all that matters to them. And they only care about the money right now because they're afraid if the money goes away, well, then we won't be able to put out that message anymore. That's the only reason it even matters to them. So he's going to talk about like what we can do. Those of us who don't want that, who are sick of that, who are tired of seeing that. This is what we need to do, is to create alternatives. And he's about to get into is you can't just say, I'm going to make an alternative to make an alternative. You have to make it good.
For this comic book, for example, the first book that we released, it needs to be the best that it can be. It needs to be in direct competition with the guys that we've been talking about, Marvel, DC. We need to do work that's better than theirs. And that's not going to be easy to do. But from artwork to story, all that stuff, it's not just being an alternative. It's about being a good one that's viable so we can replace these guys. See, we need a new cultural revolution. Definitely people that value liberty. Art to become some sort of a mainstay or impact in terms of cultural because that's where it all starts. Change the culture by default, you change the politics by you change the culture, then by default you change the politics. And it's not about beating your head or beating you over the head with, let's say, my personal politics. I told y'all this is gonna be ANCAP the comics. That's not what I'm writing, right? You just know that the creator values liberty and he doesn't fucking hate you. But this is gonna be digestible for virtually anybody. That's what it's about. There are universal truths, and I believe that.
There it is. Universal truths, things that we all know are true. You know, classically, you would say it would be something along the lines of, with great power, there must also come great responsibility. That's a universal truth. That's not political. That's just a fact of life, a reality. You know, and he's saying that in his books that he's going to make, you know, he's not going to ram his political views down your throat. He's going to create entertainment, is what he's talking about. Make entertainment, stuff that can be digestible by anybody. You don't have to have the same policies as him to enjoy it. Whereas unlike with the current creators now in the mainstream, if you don't have their political views, you can't really enjoy that work. Because if it's not talking down or insulting you directly, it's ruining the characters that you care about by the way they're doing it. And this is what he's talking about. So we need an alternative to that. And the only way to get that alternative is to get people to produce good work that is actual full of entertainment value, not full with, you know, reverse.
But the idea is to try to have this cultural revolution so that on your wall, like this is what I grew up on your wall or your youngster's wall, these are Rippleverse characters, right? Instead of Soul, it's someone else that's culturally sort of relevant, though Soul is, you know, still alive. You get what it is that I'm saying? Like, we're talking about coming up in a new generation of properties that people need to be privy to. And that's not going to be easy, but it's going to be necessary if we are going to combat these guys, the authoritarian left, because they have control over what you see right now. But that didn't happen overnight. They just realized how important it was, and people that value liberty, people that are libertarian or whatever they call themselves, neglected it for so long. And they didn't realize how important that was and how impactful that was. And now they do. It's a little late because everything you watch is some message kind of in it. And the people that win the awards, then they like maybe act in these or write these stories. They win the awards based on your sales, and then they get on the podium and they tell you how much you suck because you didn't vote in the way that they thought that you should have. That's why these alternatives have to exist.
Bingo. Bingo. These people who are currently having their levers on the culture get on those podiums and in their work, in the product they produce, and they tell you how much you suck, how much they hate you, how much you're an evil bigot. And that's what we're faced with. That's where we're at right now. And it's because these are people who are extremely always political. They don't take a break. They don't stop. I mean, again, he's hitting right on the head of exactly what the problem is and why what he's calling for is exactly the antidote for it.
But why these alternatives need to be good at what it is they're doing. If you are a person that is a creator in each space, some of you guys have been there like me with music. You've been there. You just haven't out yourself. I say out yourself and allow the fans and the supporters to catch you, right? But also people got to be mindful of what it is that you're doing and where your money's going. We thought we had the luxury of not worrying about that. And maybe sometime in our later lives, in our lifetime, we'll get to that point again, like it was in the 90s, where you could just buy something and you didn't have to care about what politics this person's had. It didn't matter. None of that mattered because we were kind of over a lot of this hump. But now we're where we're at, where everybody's consumed by all of this. And this is the world that we live in. Okay. So this is why I have my 49% rule, in that all I ask is for half, not half going to me, half going to people that are in these cultural spaces that don't hate you. And that's not an easy thing to do. But it just requires you got to fix your mind. It's like training your mind to think like you've never thought. And that is not only, okay, it's not just about, do I need this? It's about, okay, I want this or I need it. Who is the creator of this? And if you could just get 51%, a little over half, you'd be surprised how much the cultural tide shift. Because for so.
And there it is. That's great advice. You need to support alternatives, not just any alternative because it's alternative, but good alternatives. And you need to give them support to change things. This is how you get the change, you know. And he said it's going to be hard, and it is, because, you know, we all love Spider-Man. We all love the Justice League. We all love these characters that we have grown up with and spent decades supporting. And, you know, that's why they're beloved. That's why they're still around 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years later. And so it's going to be hard, but we'll have to push those feelings aside if we're going to make any difference here, because otherwise these authoritarian political minded people who are running things now are just going to keep doing what they're doing, and there's little that we can do to stop them. So we have to kind of take it upon ourselves. That's what I'm doing now. I hardly buy anything mainstream anymore from comics. You know, I get a couple books from some miniseries, some small independent companies. Once in a while, maybe I'll just try something out just to see if it's any good. Again, like he's saying, you know, got to give people, you know, you got to get alternatives. Maybe try some small company out, see if they're any good. But other than that, I go to crowdfunding for my comics now. That's what I do, and I support people who I know can produce. Like I supported Graham Nolan's book, The Chenoo, and I just supported his new one, Alien Alamo. I supported Aaron Lopresti's book, The Wraith of God. I supported John Malin's Graveyard Shift 3, and I just supported his new one, Godlike. You know, you got to support people who you know have a track record of quality entertainment and who are doing alternatives to what the mainstream is doing, who you know these people won't ram their political views down your throat the way the mainstream is. You got to support these. And it doesn't have to be, because he said, it's not to be toes more, like 51%, he said, just more than half. Support it. And you'll see a shift. And again, because you can see right now, again, with the complaining about how comics aren't selling in the mainstream, these people are on a precipice right now. It wouldn't take a whole lot to push them over. And then they will either be changed or they will be gone. And either way, it's a good thing, you know, for us. It's a good thing for people who want entertainment to be entertainment. You know, as he said, we'll get, you know, and maybe someday we'll get back to where you don't have to think about who it is I'm supporting. You know, maybe we'll get back to that someday. He goes, but that's not today. That's not the world we're in right now. You have to think about these things, because if you support the people who are doing these things, even if they are quote unquote good at their work, it doesn't matter, because you're still supporting what it is that's going on. That's what I've stopped doing. That's what I don't do anymore, because I don't want to be a part of that system. So, you know, again, the Great Ripper, just schooling you with knowledge bombs.
So long. You look at the entertainment elites, like, for example, right now, for so long, these guys have been laced up, the pockets being laced up. They become rich off of people that they hate. And that's a great position for them to be in. That's a bad one for you, because you essentially are funding your own oppression. And people that will advocate for acts of aggression being used upon you, we're seeing that right now with the COVID stuff. So we need the alternatives, but it's not just on the creators to create. It's on the creators to beat on their crafts and to be good.
And there it is. See, he said right there, you're funding your own oppression. And that's to a degree, that's true. That's exactly what you do. By supporting the Kelly Sue DeMoronics of the world, you are supporting the people who hate you and who will use force against you. Again, like Eric Larson's whole thing of, you know, people who don't get the vaccine, treat them like second-class citizens, you know, ostracize them from society. That's what all that is. Like I said, it's always incremental, and it always continues to exacerbate and get worse and worse until you do something like Eric July is suggesting here, and you have to alter your thinking. You have to be the change and say, you know, I may love Batman, I may love Spider-Man, but they're dead to me now. They're in the hands of people who hate me, of people who would use force and oppression against me to get me to do what they want me to do. And so I can't support those books. I can't support those creators. I can't support those people. I need to support the people who are against this. I need to support people, and as he says, who are good at the craft. You have to be good. You can't just slop it out there. You can't just say, well, I'm an alternative, so here, buy me, because now you're hardly much better than the ones we're trying to get rid of. Because that's their bag too, is, you know, I'm virtuous, support me. You know, that's their mindset. And if you're like, well, I'm an alternative, support me, how are you all that much different? You need to be good, and you need to deliver what the audience wants, not what you want them to have, not what you think, as Jerry Dugan says, what they think you need. You need to give them what they want. That's how you get their support. That's how you get their admiration. That is how you end up making them, you know, your audience for life. You know, that's how the icons became the icons. The people in the past who worked on them, they made us care about them because they cared about them, and maybe in some small way cared about the audience, at least enough to say, we want to create what you want so that we can get your money. That's what they did, and that's why those icons are icons today. You know, all those things you see behind Eric, the Flash, you know, the X-Men, the Joker, all those characters are all icons. We all know who they are You know, Batman, we all know who they are because the people who did the craft at the time did it well. They understood what they were doing. This is entertainment first and foremost. You know, political commentating and our political views, those are secondary to what needs to be done to service the market and the audience thereof. That's what they did. And that's what these current crop are not doing. And that's why they're failing, and they're whining now about how the comic industry is contracting and people can't make money and bankable names aren't bankable and books aren't selling and shops are closing. This is why. And Eric July is telling you exactly what we need to do to make that change.
Good. Don't think you're warranted or old support simply because you create an alternative. If your alternative is shit, that does us no good. But also from a customer standpoint, be mindful of where your dollar is going. Go seek out these people that are in these industries that don't hate you. Lace them up. And you'll be surprised how the culture would change and how fast it would. Because the left, that's how they operated for a very long time. And that's how they got the power that they got. But they really only got it because they were dependent on your dollar and tricking the people that they hate into buying, supporting, funding, subsidizing their shit. That's where the change has to be made, not just on the creator, but also on the customer.
And there it is. There it is. This is the solution, folks. This is the solution to get rid of the always political types. This is, and again, as you said, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be fun. You know, we're not going to enjoy that. You know, it's sad that it's come to that point. It's sad that that's where we have to go with it. But, you know, better that than an industry that hates you. Better that than people who scorn and have derision towards you, who would want you to be a second-class citizen because you don't think the way they do or won't do what they want politically. You know, you should, you know, it's the way it has to be. And so, you know, this is why always political people are constantly insufferable. There is no joy in any of them. They don't have any joy in anything except in having control over everyone and everything. You know, they want a world of number 12 looks just like you, with them being number 12, of course. That's what they want. That's what they desire. And that's what we can no longer support. We have to stop. We have to walk away and just say no more. You know, like I said, that's what I've done. You know, it was hard. You have no idea how hard it was. Like I've been a comic reader for almost 3.5 decades. You know, this is hard for me to walk away from everything that I have been a part of for so long. I mean, comics gave me, you know, refuge from reality. And when it was actual entertainment at the time, back in like the late 80s and the 90s, you know, I found my wife because of comics. I have my current thing that I do here online selling art because of comics. Comics has given me so much, you know, the mainstream, and to have to turn my back on it was a hard thing to have to do, but it's what you have to do. And you have to be, you know, you have to have the wherewithal to do it. You know, like he said, it's not going to be easy, but it has to be done. And that's what I think we need to have happen. So I hope that by watching this, you've learned some things. You've come to understand not just how this is going on, but why it's going on and what we can do to change it. Because ultimately, that's what I want. I want to change things too. I want comics to go back to being entertainment again, not political sermons, not identity politic fests, not, you know, derision and scorning lectures from people who think they're your moral superiors because they're more virtuous than you because they have the right political beliefs. No. I wanted to go back to being entertainment, and that can only happen if we support people who also feel that way and who also can create good quality entertainment. That's what I'm doing now with my crowdfunding. I'm trying to support people who can do that, you know. And I've found a couple people who otherwise I wouldn't have found, like that Umbrella guy. I love his books, though they're always good. And because of him, I learned of a guy named Peter Gilmore. I've just backed his latest effort, Jack the Ripper, Vampire Hunter. You know, basically that story is, you know, they take the Jack the Ripper story and put it on its head by saying, well, what if Jack the Ripper wasn't a serial killer? What if he was killing those prostitutes because they were really vampires who were trying to take over the world? So now Jack the Ripper is a hero instead of like one of the most maniacal villains in the annals of history. A very interesting take, and I thought that was kind of awesome. him and writer Mandy Summers are working on that, and the artwork looks beautiful. Peter Gilmore's work, and I was impressed with it, a little bit in Tug's book back a couple years ago when I saw it, and he's just gotten even better with this. And see, this is what you have to do. People who can deliver quality, you have to support them, and you got to do it outside the mainstream, because the mainstream doesn't care about you anymore, if it ever did. Maybe they only cared about you for your money even back when it looked like they loved you, but at least back then, they at least cared about something other than their politics. They at least faked caring about you, and they don't even try to fake it anymore. And we need to get to a place where the audience matters to the ones who are creating. And in the mainstream, that's not the case right now, and it's not going to change anytime soon. Again, as I showed you with all those Twitter clips and everything, do those sound like people who are looking to change their viewpoints, who change the way they operate anytime soon? No. And they weren't rare exceptions. Those are the rule now. And so we need to be the change that we want to see. And the only way to do that is to support others who think like us, who say comics should be entertainment first and foremost, and that you need to create quality work that the audience wants to read. Keep overt politics out, especially your personal ones, because the audience doesn't care. And that's what we need to get back to. And that's the way we do it. Eric July, great Eric July, called it out. It's perfect. That's exactly what we got to do. Support those who create quality work that is done in the way it's supposed to be done, and from creators who don't hate you as their audience. That's the answer. That's how you end always political in an industry. When you get people who aren't that way, who are more successful and have more on the ball going for them than the people who are. And that's the bottom line. So, and I guess that's also the bottom line for the live stream here. I want to thank you all for joining me. It's been almost 2 hours going on here. But before we go, I always have to do the little shill, of course. Got to be a little bit of shilling going on. So, as I said, we are of the mindset, me and the artists I work with, we don't hate you. We don't think we're better than you. We don't think our politics are all that matter. We are very much capitalist at heart, and we want your money too. So if you can, head on over here. This is our art gallery filled with art for sale. And you can see it all right here. Lots of great art here. I just put up some stuff recently from Bob Smith, some great Archie's artwork. And we got stuff here from here's Mike Vosberg, and some stuff from Mike Harris. All art types, prelims, covers, pages, pinups, complete stories. I mean, anything you would want, we got it. And for all budgets. So, we don't snub that. We don't even snub that way at budget. We don't care if you have, $20 or $20,000. We treat you all the same, because you're all just as valuable to us. So if you want to support us, help keep this stuff going, help keeping me be able to pay my my internet and electric bills, so I can keep coming on here and doing these streams and things like that, and help out some really fine artists, head on over to our art gallery here and maybe make a purchase, buy some great art. I can guarantee you'll get great service, because that's all I do is great service. I don't do anything else. And but if again, in the current times, I know money's a little tighter for people right now. Gas prices are crazy, inflation going rampant. So you may not have the disposable income you once had to do that. But if you can't, that's fine too. What you can always do is head on over here to MeWe, and you can join up with our group here, the Sequential Treasures group. You can always know it's us, because you'll see this great Dan Lawless image of Wolverine versus Cable. I put that up there because I wanted it to be a great image that people would be find memorable. And you can go here and just, whenever I have cool stuff from the artists, like here's a recent post I just did for Dan Lawless, where he did a speed drawing video of how to draw Spider-Man. And then, I do my weekly event here, Comic Art Wednesday. I always post up a new sweet piece of artwork here from one of the artists. So you can see here, this week was something from Bob Smith's, a little Archie action going on for you. Here's another video from Dan Lawless where he did a sculpt of Conan the Barbarian. And then here's, here's Mike Vosberg working on the Lori Lovecraft omnibus. This is the first page to the new story that will be in the book. It's going to be all the Lori stories, going to be like 350 pages long. And there's going to be 2 new stories in it, one with Lori Lovecraft, the other with Linda. And this is the first new page to the Lori story. So, I mean, all kinds of firsts are here. All the info you could want, it's all right here. You want to keep on top of what's going on with Sequential Treasures and our artists, this is the place to go. Head over to MeWe and join up at our group. Always love to have you. Always want to have more people joining. It's you know, I want as much interaction as possible. And speaking of interactions, like I said, that brings us to the end of this live stream here. But if you liked what you heard here, head down there and hit that like button and drop me a comment. If you didn't like what you heard, drop me a comment anyway. Like I said, I always want to hear what people got to say. I don't have a lock on knowledge. I don't have a lock on opinions and the like. So I always want to hear what you got to say. And if you can, also subscribe to the channel too, so you can make sure you keep up with, you know, any future live streams, both either of my sequential thinking discussions or any art from the artists. Like I said, I spoke to a few of them this past week. They're going to try to get some stuff out to me. So hopefully in the next couple of weeks here, I'll be seeing some new art roll in, and we can have some sweet new art for you guys to check out. And you know, like I said, and if you guys got any ideas for stuff you want me to do, maybe you have some ideas of stuff I could do on the channel, let me know. Like I said, drop me some comments down there. I always want to hear what you got to say, because I'm always interested in what people are thinking. So, you know, help us out here. Help out the channel. You know, subscribe, like, comment, all that great stuff. And again, I want to thank you all for joining me tonight. I hope you had and got some good stuff out of this. Got some interesting thoughts going for you. And until next time, take care.